Hello and welcome to the Philippines. This is a trip from Mango Square to Cologne Street, downtown, uptown to downtown. Summit Hotel just to the right there. Mango Square is kind of the uptown area of Cebu City. You've got Fuente Osmena Circle, which is a big traffic circle there. The big building you see there in the distance, that is City Suites, sometimes called Ramos Tower. Condominiums before the pandemic were renting, let's say, a studio for around 20 to 25,000. Many of them are now renting down in the 15,000 peso range. So things have dropped substantially with many of the landlords, the owners of these condominiums around town. And we're headed down to the downtown area, Cologne Street, the oldest street supposedly in the Philippines. This is a hobble ride, a motorbike taxi. They're usually about 100 to 150 cc motors, and they almost always carry an extra helmet with them. I will try to touch on a couple of issues here on this trip. First of all, the international travel. The international travel, tourist visas are still not being allowed here in the Philippines, so you cannot fly in here and expect to get a visa stamp in your passport. It's not going to happen. There are a few special types of visas that are being allowed. You can check the immigration site. I've done a video in the past, and I will do another one in the coming weeks as new information comes out. Now, literally, the travel situation within Philippines, traveling from island to island, city to city, province to province, can change on a weekly basis. For instance, the mayor of Cebu City, just within the last couple days, changed the requirements, saying that anybody outside of Cebu province has to have a negative PCR test to come into Cebu City. So I presume they're going to have more checkpoints at all the ports and the airports, of course, checking for that type of requirement. Even within the city, each barangay or village within the cities can have this at their own rules. They can lock down one barangay or even one street. So you need to try to be aware of that if you plan on traveling anywhere. They might shut down the large Carbone market a couple times has been shut down, or they put different restrictions in that area sometimes. Going by the first letter of your last name, certain people could come certain days, or a barangay could come the people from a certain village could come a certain day in some markets. Here we're down near the downtown area. These changing requirements and restrictions obviously make it very difficult to plan any travel at all. In Boracay, the very famous beach, is I think they're still requiring negative PCR tests, and different places can start requiring a quarantine once you show up. I know Cagayan de Oro, I think a friend of mine, their parents went to Cagayan de Oro. When they left on their journey, there wasn't a quarantine required. When they arrived, some hours later, they had to go into either 10 or 14-day quarantine, I believe. So it's pretty risky to try to plan too much travel within Cebu City. Now, I know a number of people who have gone up to Bantayan Island and haven't had any issues there. They've been able to enjoy themselves. A number of other resort areas, Oslo, I think, Magellan, with the waterfalls and the canyoneering. And as far as immigration goes, I am aware of a number of people who have overstayed their visas, tourist visas. You're allowed 36 months, 3 years to stay in the Philippines on a tourist visa, although that's not even guaranteed. They can decline your extensions. And here we're coming up to the Unitop store area downtown near Cologne Street. People at many stores are asked to fill out their information, contact information, and Seems to me, I'm not a virologist, seems to me that would probably be the one area, people using the same pens and papers, best place to transmit germs right there. That's just my opinion, though. I'm often asked the question, when is the Philippines going to open up to tourists, to foreigners? Good question. All over the world, for that matter. If any of all of you who are watching any news at all understand that the various countries are going through various stages of lockdown, opening up, locking down again, more restrictions, less restrictions. The airlines are, the resorts, resorts, I'm sure tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of resorts, hotels around the world have gone out of business permanently. The rollout of the various vaccines all over the world is taking longer than promised and expected by many of these pharmacy companies, and that was to be expected, I think. You just not by magic these things disappear. They have to be manufactured, they have to be stored, certain temperatures, certain environments, they have to be shipped, and then they have to get out to the different destinations. They have to set up the vaccination facilities. They have to watch the people because really it's they still haven't done long-term tests on these, so they have to continue to watch the people who are vaccinated for any adverse side effects. There's also the question of how long will the vaccine last? The variants, something viruses do. They mutate. You get different variants. That's why you come up with a new flu vaccine every year for a different variant of the flu. Same thing with these viruses. So is this going to be a shot that you need to take every year or less? My guess is that it's going to be at least several more months. It's March, late March now, 2021. That's going to be several months before they start that. Now I have a friend from the USA who has taken the steps to, because Thailand has been taking steps to open up for a couple months. Slowly they're going forward. If they're locking down areas, it's just certain specific areas, and they are coming up with more flexible tourist visas, trying to attract more people. Initially, their attempts didn't bring in many new tourists, so they are changing those, becoming a little more lenient, and my friend is going to plan on coming to Thailand, I think, for 90 days, then he can extend that twice. I know a number of expats who have passed over their 3 years that they're allowed on their tourist visa, and my recommendation is to get in touch with JRC Visa Consultancy and Immigration Services. They have, I'll put a note in the description with his contact information. He's helping a couple people that I know of. You will have to pay a fine. You will have to, well, there's a number of things. It's too complicated for me to try to get into on this video, but there is a process that you need to go forward with, and you may have to pay a fine and for extensions to your visa, and then unless you're going to apply for a new visa that you can avail yourself of, a different type, not a tourist visa, you may be allowed to stay in the Philippines. If not, you'll have to pay all the fees and penalties and leave. This downtown area is really quite interesting. I very rarely see foreigners down in this area. And when I first came here in 2015, I was told, no, sir, you don't want to go down to that area. It's too dangerous. And for a couple of months, I stayed away. I listened to that advice, but finally, I just decided I'm going down. I'm going down there. And great experience. Now, we've been in economic recession, depression for the last year, and probably for many, many months to come. Many less people, fewer people down here. during these times, even in the big malls. Fewer people, and even fewer people who are there actually spending money, walking around with many products that they're purchasing there. So that is the result of this economic lockdown. People are afraid to spend the money. They don't know if the economy is going forward or going to go backwards again into more lockdown. So they're holding on to what little cash they have, if they're fortunate to have a job, be making some money. Many Filipinos, if they are working, they have cash coming in. They're spending that cash to help other family members. That's one interesting thing about Filipinos. They help take care of their families in many cases. I know some of you have already booked flights to the Philippines in the coming months, and please let us know in the comments section how that's coming. Have they assured you that those flights are going to happen? Have they canceled those flights? A lot of interesting stores down here: clothing stores, electronics, hardware. A lot of hardware stores down here. And anyway, also I have over 800 videos out there. Please check them out. A lot of condo renting and buying videos, cost of living, uh, traveling around the Philippines. Anyway, thanks for coming along. Take care, and I'll see you next time.